Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is where Laura and I talk about adoption. Laura is an adoptive mom of two. Laura Khoury is an adoptive mom of two. And I am an adoptee and an adoptive parent. And we both are children's book authors on the topic of adoption. Today I was thinking that we would go through, so Laura went through kind of the process before of how she became her and her husband became adoptive parents. But then she was going to go into a little bit more detail about her youngest and her adoption story. So Laura, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hello. So I like to just kind of start the story because we adopted from foster care. And so that's always confusing to people because we later became foster parents, but at the time we were not foster parents. And so the way that we became adoptive parents the second time was kind of a surprise to all involved. So we were a family who was waiting. We were waiting to adopt a second child. We had been waiting for a long time and just about ready to kind of throw in the towel and just be happy with our family of three, with our daughter that we have, because it just like wasn't happening. Nobody was choosing us from infant adoption. And we kind of had been through some things, a couple of adoptions that didn't work out. And it just started to feel like, well, maybe we're just meant to be this family of three. And, so our home study was probably going to expire in like June, and it was May when I met Cecilia. And so I was teaching at the time, I was teaching in a kindergarten program in a preschool building. And so one of the little girls came in. She wasn't in my class. She was in my friend's class. And she said, "I have a baby at my house." And her teacher was like, "No way, you can't have a baby. You guys already have a baby," because they did. They had an 18-month-old and that they were fostering, and they were just about getting ready to adopt. And she said, "We do. We have a baby, and it's a girl, and she's small." And so my friend, the teacher, called the foster mom, and she was like, "Can you bring the baby up? I want to hold her at the end of the day when you come to pick up your daughter." And so secretly, that teacher was like, "I'm going to get Laura down here, and she's going to meet this baby." And I don't really know anything about it all day, but when it's time for dismissal, somebody comes to the room and they were like, "I'm going to dismiss your class because you're needed down, in Katie's classroom." And so I like kind of go in there, like, I'm thinking I'm going to help with the kid or something major happened. And it's just them with this baby. And I'm like, and as, adoptive parents, we're kind of always, we talk about this on this YouTube channel. Like, people just do not understand how it works at all. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes they think, "Oh, this person has a baby and you want a baby, so here you go." And so
it's not that simple.
It's not. And so the foster mom and I, who now is my really good friend, Jamie, we were just sort of looking at each other like, what? And she's not supposed to really tell me a ton of details because as a foster parent, you're really not. And I'm kind of trying to like honor her wishes, but be kind to the other people, but also but so I got to hold Cecilia that day, and I went home and talked to John. I mean, probably like seconds later, called John and I told him the story, and I called the agency, the foster agency, and I said, "I met a baby today, and I know that I'm not supposed to know all of the details, but the little girl in my class told me the details, tried not to get anyone in trouble." And I just said, "I really would like to know more information. I have a home study already. And so give me a call back." Well, so they didn't call me back, and I wasn't really sure what to do. I just didn't think anything would come of it anyway. It just didn't seem to be like the kind of thing that worked out. Our agency told us, you'd have to pretty much start from scratch and get a foster care license. And so I was just like, all right, nothing's going to happen. Well, so anyway, literally that was the day she came home from the hospital in May. And so it's like June. And I hadn't forgotten about it, but I just didn't think anything would come from it. And I am hosting a play date at my house, and I have like parents over and kids running around, and this random phone number comes up on my phone, and I answered it, and it's that agency. And they're like, is this Laura Khoury? You had said that you were interested in pursuing an adoption with this little girl. Are you still interested? And I hadn't talked, you don't get a lot of time with these foster agencies. Like it's for placement too. They're like, yep, you got to call me back in like 10 minutes,
Oh
well,
gosh.
They weren't that quick for this one, but so I'm like, I think I have to talk to my husband about it. And Jamie's sort of giving me a little bit of information. Like, I think they might call you soon, because I think rights had just been terminated, so they could pursue. And I was the top person on their list, which
Wow.
was really random just because I had made that phone call. And so later on that day, I went over to Jamie's with Sophie. And that is in my book. That scene is in my book. So
Love it.
Sophie and I went over, and I didn't want her to know what was happening, because I didn't want her to get her hopes up. She really wanted to be, she was 4 at the time. She wanted to be a big sister. She knew we were considering adoption. And I just, you just don't want them to also be involved in any kind of sad situation.
Hurt and sadness. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went over, and I said, we're having a play date with this family from my school. And so we had just gotten there. I'm holding Cecilia, and Sophie just whispers, are we adopting her? Like, she just sort of knew. And we didn't know yet, but that was the way that we met. And then her adoption took a really long time. We did have to start from scratch. So we had to become waiting adoptive family through the agency, because they thought it might be faster than us becoming foster parents. I don't think it was. It was a really long process. So we sort of had to share custody with the foster family. So pretty much from maybe like a week after that first time I met her, she started to come to our house for overnights, and we were officially her support family, I think it was. And so we would have her over, and they deemed pretty quickly that since it was looking like it would happen, that we were going to be more the primary home, but she still had to go to the foster home every single week for at least one night. And so it was tough. And that process started in either June or early July. And so I remember their drive. I live in Michigan, so we get a lot of snow. And so I remember it's like driving over there thinking, I'm so glad I won't have to come here every day when it's snowy. But I did, because it took a full year. We didn't get full custody until a year later, June 1st.
Wow. Was that tough for her, knowing that babies and like consistent patterns are very important to them? Was that tough, having like one night every week in another house? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she was fairly resilient. But it was tough for everybody involved. Jamie and I got to be very, very close. The kids got so sick. Everyone got so sick because we were sharing germs.
Yep.
Cecilia was the 5th in their house. Sophie was in preschool. It was my last year teaching, so I had a pretty compromised system too. And it was mostly the kids, but it was like, if they would get sick, any of us would get sick. It was like the other family was going to get it. And so, we got the stomach bug, all of us, twice. Influenza A, influenza B. I had walking pneumonia. I was during those years, like pretty sick with the hospital stays. It was like a joke. She has pictures of the 2 babies because they both had asthma. Like one time her son was like laying on the ground, and they're doing breathing treatments with the other one like in the
Oh,
background, and it was a nightmare for that. And it really fell on her because I wasn't allowed to take her to the doctor
oh yeah.
until I got custody. I mean, we finally were able to arrange something with the doctor where I could go, because I would sometimes like go over and watch her other 4 kids, but it was
Yeah.
just it was such a nightmare. But we survived it, and the outcome was this beautiful friendship, and then a beautiful family for us. But so that was kind of her story. It was crazy. And I wouldn't change any of it for the world, but then we got custody in June. And then of course we still had to wait until, I guess not, of course, because you didn't have to do that, but in Michigan, you have to wait several months before you get your hearing. So we didn't officially change her name and everything until September 29th. So yeah, crazy. But that's her story. Our story.
So exciting. That's so exciting. And I love it. And now I can see all of those components from the book. So it's really cool to get the real life story that goes with the book. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that we wanted to put into the book, or I wanted to put into the book. I wanted each of her that family has 5 children now. The 5th one wasn't born yet, but I wanted to make sure that they were all, because we were all part of the story. And one of the themes is kind of birth mother to foster mother to adoptive mother. And so the rest of the family is all pictured, they're all in the illustrations, the foster father, the adoptive father, but they're not necessarily as much in the words. But I wanted to make sure that their clothing and the way they looked was accurate. So it is really cute. Like the one boy has glasses, the other one's a huge Michigan fan, so he's always wearing Michigan, and
I
the
love
girl,
it.
is pictured. So it's cute. And Sophie too. So my little Sophie, she's got her glasses, and she got to pick out her dress and her bow and all that. So
I love it. That just makes the book even more special for all of the other individuals that are in it. So I love that.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, thank you for sharing this story. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yes.
All right. Bye,
See you
Laura.
later. Bye.